Tonight on Game All Night, Greg Spence of The Broken Token. This Week and Each Week is brought to you by Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience.
Welcome to Game All Night.
Well, hello and welcome back to yet another Game All Night. I'm your host, Chris Whiphand, and with me, as always, my trusty bartender and friend, Mr. Dan Haig. Bartender Dan.
How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, sir?
Holding on here.
All right. So, we have to know what's in the glass.
Yeah, this one's one from a local Philly bar here, a very Philly brewing company, as a matter of fact, Evil Genius, right on Front Street, looking out over the river. And what we've got today is their double IPA, Han Shot First. It's possible that Evil Genius may be most known for their non sequitur beer names, which generally have absolutely nothing to do with what's actually contained in the bottle. They're just pop culture references. But in addition to that, actually, a tasty brew here. So we've got their it's like an 8% IPA coming in about that, but it drinks much lighter than that. It's a really a juicy IPA. Not a lot of bitterness going on. It's a lot of citrus, nice malt balance. I find it really drinkable.
So you kind of hit on a love spot for me, and that's with Evil Genius, because back when I used to manage a bar downtown in Philly, they used to share brewing space with a company up in New York. They didn't even have anything down here. And I was a fan back then with their Evil Eye IPA. So.
I'll check you out. That's you go all the way back.
Yeah, I'm an OG Evil Genius fan. But I always loved what they did. So good choice tonight. And you didn't even know that. It's not like we don't. He usually surprises me with the beer. I don't get to know these things in advance. So cool. Well, we do have Mr. Greg Spence sitting in the green room. So let's welcome aboard. How are we doing, Mr. Greg?
How's it going? I am doing awesome.
Outstanding. How are you guys? I'm great. Dan seems to be good. He's in good spirits, and we're, I don't know. It's just fun to record. I love this. I have so much fun.
I've been looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Are you enjoying anything with us tonight? Any beverage?
I am drinking with you in spirit tonight because I have a cocktail of Sudafed and NyQuil going on. So I am not going too deep into the drinks tonight, but I'll have one in your honor later.
Well, that's fair. And we appreciate that. We don't expect our guests to imbibe, but, when you have the chance, please do. Please do. Obviously, given your neon sign there, you do. It's not like you don't.
Oh, yeah. I've got a few bottles around here somewhere. There's a couple of bottles of Jameson, and I like tequila every now and then. So, yeah.
Well, there you go.
Just not tonight, unfortunately. This will be a good excuse to have me back another time.
I'm always looking for a good excuse because, let's face it, I love getting to know our guests. You're kind of, you fall in this category of we've had a lot of interaction, but we haven't actually had a lot of interaction because,
right.
Our paths have crossed multiple times, and it's usually been work related because, ladies and gentlemen, the Broken Token, is the manufacturer of this beautiful monstrosity behind me.
The meeple wall.
Most assembly required, I might add, but still,
right.
We got to stay on brand, right?
Yeah, that was great when you contacted us. Do you think you guys could cut 100 meeples? Sure, why not?
And then I had to call him back because I needed more.
Right. Well, and next time you need more, you know where I'm at.
Absolutely. And it was great. And you know what? It ended up being, literally, I believe I sent you the picture of my concept of what I wanted to do and then what the wall ended up being. And I got to admit, it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, it's cool. Turned out great.
You guys were...
And you hand stained all those, didn't you?
That I did. I went through a lot of latex gloves, let me tell you.
I bet. More than normal, right?
Yep. And then, of course, I got smart and I mounted them with Velcro. So
Oh, that's a good idea.
yeah, that way if anyone ever suffers catastrophic loss, I can replace him. So or give him away to a guest.
Cool.
I don't know. Well,
Right. Or just start throwing them at people.
you know, well, if my camera didn't cost so much, one could fly at the camera every night. I think that would be a very Letterman-esque way to end the show. But
Right.
we'll
Yeah.
stick to pencils. That's a lot safer.
Sounds good.
So then the other time I got to meet some of your gang up at Origins and got to see you at PAX, but unfortunately wasn't able to hang out because your entire team was delayed and you were lone man setting up a booth.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, normally we have a little bit of help, and then at that show, everybody was a little bit late getting there, so had to unpack something like 4 pallets and set up the booth on my own. So yeah, I could skip arm day after doing that.
That was definitely a good day. So how was PAX for you? I know that was your first time there, right?
That was actually our second time. We were
Okay.
at the first PAX Unplugged the year before, and it was good. I mean, we saw some growth. The show. I don't remember what the numbers were or if they published the attendance numbers, but everybody pretty much said they noticed growth and more activity the second year. So that's really cool. It's a good show, and they know how to run a well done show. So we really enjoyed it.
Awesome. So, and I kind of compared it to Origins in size and feel. Do you think that sounds about right?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's pretty close to. Yeah, it feels like that to us too.
Yeah, it was good. A lot of the comments that kind of came out were definitely last year. We noticed a lot of new gamers and new to the hobby gamers, and then this year seemed to be a little bit more of a mix. I think people kind of got word of what it was and showed up, but still, it felt like it was a lot of new people showing up and trying things.
Yeah,
out.
we noticed the same thing too. We can always gauge that by the types of questions they ask
Sure.
us, or when they stand there scratching their head, like, "What are these things?" But it's always good because you're reaching a new audience that way. So that's cool.
So I do kind of have to rewind and kind of find out how you kind of came up with the concept for the Broken Token, because frankly, I think everybody kind of goes through this period in their gamer life where they want to do more with the game. Maybe I can't game right now because all my buddies are tied up and they're busy, and I can't game as much as I want. My wife didn't game back then, and I made I think I made 70 foam core inserts.
Yeah.
I sold a bunch, and just playing around. I mean, but I didn't make the leap to wood.
Right. Right.
So what kind
That
of
was
got
really-
you from the A to B?
Yeah, I had made some foam core inserts as well back in 2012, 2013, something like that. And we had some games we were playing a lot. Agricola was one my friends and I were playing a lot, and I thought it sure would be cool to have like a nice storage box for it. So in my wood shop in my garage, I made just a really nice box with like a piano hinge on the back, and it had some removable trays for all the bits and pieces, and I stained it and lacquered it really nice. And my friends were super impressed when I was done with it, and they were like, "Oh, you could sell that." But I think I spent something like 40 hours working on the thing.
Right.
So it's like there's no way you could make something like that to sell, but it's still kind of stuck in my head that everybody thought it was pretty cool. And then we were playing also a lot of Battlestar Galactica, and a friend of mine was like, "You should make me a box to hold BSG." So I did that for them, and it turned out really great. And again, we were kind of like, it'd be cool if we could sell something like that, but just the amount of labor that went into it kind of made it impossible. And it was maybe a year later, I joined a local maker shop to work on another hobby of mine. I was building racing drones, FPV drones, where you wear the goggles and it's like you're in the cockpit and you're flying them around. So
Sounds awesome.
I joined, yeah, this is a lot of fun. And I joined a maker shop to get access to a CNC machine so I could cut carbon fiber for a project for one of those things. And while I was there, I saw their laser cutters, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. You could prototype stuff on there pretty easily out of wood." So one game night we were playing, I think King of Tokyo or something, and I was thinking, man, it'd be cool to have a little organizer for this, like a foam core thing. And then I thought, oh, why don't I just make something and try to cut it on the laser down at the maker shop? So I did that. And my gaming group thought it was cool, and they said, you should put that online and see what people think about it. So I think I made a thread on BGG, and it kind of, people were like, "What's your PayPal address? How can I buy one of these things from you?" So I was like, well, okay. I posted that, and I started going down and cutting more, and and I'd go down there and cut 5 or 6 of them, and then it would turn out I have to go down and cut 20 of them, and then orders kept coming in, and I was going down 3 or 4 times a week just to cut these things. And I was like, okay, there's maybe some interest out there in something like this. And of course, people were like, you should do this for clips, do it for 7 Wonders. So that was when I decided maybe I should buy a laser cutter and stick it in my garage, so I don't have to keep driving down to the maker shop. And that's what I did, and it just kind of kept growing from there.
So you went from this in, what was that, probably 13, 14 in that
2013,
range?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how many laser cutters do you have now?
So now we're up to 18, and it's not enough. So we need to get more, but the problem is we run out of space to put them, and that's a harder problem to solve. So I've been focusing over the last couple of months on our next sort of level of expansion plan so that we can add more machinery. So hopefully that'll settle out pretty soon.
So it's not just a matter of, well, we're going to add more machines and we're going to sell more, because that sounds good, but you kind of hit this economy of scale, right? So you need to kind of add things to the product line. And if we're timely about this, I think you just announced something new and cool that's not an insert of any sort, right?
Which one was it?
Was it the paint pot holder and the...
Oh, yes. Okay. Because there's a lot of things we're buzzing about. And I was like, I don't remember which one you were talking about.
And feel free to mention any other ones, but it's interesting.
Yeah. So we just put out expanded our line of hobby accessories. So a paint rack system, things like that have kind of existed out there before. So it's nothing super unique. Sorry about that. But we just put out a new line that consists of some separate components for organizing your paint station. So if you're into miniatures gaming or war gaming, or just like to paint, then we've got a lot of accessories coming out for that. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited for that. Actually, I've got a few of them right here.
Oh,
this is one of the old ones. I'll hold it up. There you go. One of the paint racks.
There you go.
So yeah,
man, that's a lot of paints. I guess I know what other hobby you do.
Yeah, I enjoy painting as well when I get the time.
Right. All right. So when were you able to kind of make the leap and turn this into the full-time thing? Because, I mean, obviously, if you're running down to the maker shop, this was not your full-time job at the time.
Right.
How are you able to kind of flip that switch and then just, end up with 16 not enough laser printers?
Right. It's a pretty funny story. I mean, everything kind of ramps up gradually. And so when I was getting 5 to 10 orders a day, I could do it all myself. So I was designing the next product. I was out there in my garage running the laser. I was making the instruction sheets, managing the website, answering customer service emails. It sounds like a lot to do, but like I said, when it's small, you can kind of handle it as a one-man show. But once the orders started really growing and coming in, I needed additional help. I started looking around like, who can help me? And at the time, we had a great nanny who watched our twins that were 2 years old. Her name was Ashley, and she was, I think, 27 at the time, and super cool. She was into board games as well, and she saw what I was doing, and she was like, I could help you do that. So I taught her how to run the laser cutter, and when I would leave for work, she would every hour or so go out to the garage and switch out sheets and run the machine, in addition to watching our kids. So I'd come home and she'd have a stack of stuff cut for me. And then that turned into her helping us pack orders in the evenings. And then she became actually our first number one full-time employee, along with a friend of hers, Kevin, who became employee number 2. So in April of 2014 was when we decided we really need to get out of the garage. I can't get any more people coming over to my house to do this. So we rented a little space in the town we're in. And it was like 1,100 square feet or something, but it felt huge. We moved our one laser in there and the sander and our desk and computer. And the two of them started doing it full time while I went to my day job and did everything else in the evening. So that kind of went on for about a year and a half before we had gotten by then to 15 employees. And that was when I made the leap to quit my job in software development and do this full time. So it's been great ever since.
I mean, I can't imagine what it must have been like, because I mean, we talk about to a lot of these companies, even if you talk to somebody who we consider big, like, Steven from Stronghold, right? I mean, but this was like, holy cow, you're out in like a year and a half, 2 years. You went from taking something you just did on the side for fun to make a few bucks, and probably if you're like me when it came to the foam core thing, there's that jigsaw puzzle solving, maximizing that space. Like I love doing that puzzle.
Oh yeah.
You know,
That scratches a good itch.
Yeah, I never used to take, like, I never made plans for any of my foam core inserts. I did everything on the fly because that was
Right,
fun.
just start cutting.
Yep,
Yeah.
just start going, and it's I imagine that has to be in there because you know you got to look for new products and things.
Right.
So what's kind of been, what would you say if you were to look back, you know, at some of the early designs and things like that to now, what has kind of been some of the changes that have happened over that time for you?
Well, you know, we started out, everything was very utilitarian. It was all about, you know, function first and how can we speed setup and tear down and make the game more fun to play. And over time, we started working in more, you know, more art and images and things to beautify the inserts more in addition to make them, you know, functional. So we always also try to focus now on what can we do to better the game experience. It's not really just about storage. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with our organizer for Terraforming Mars, but it's a great game. And you know, people have some complaints about the components. The game itself is great. There are some components like the little white cubes. Yeah, maybe they're a little bit plain. They serve a purpose, but we thought, you know, we could spruce these up a little bit and include some colored acrylic pieces that replace those white cubes, or a better start player marker, or a card shoe with a, you know, rocket launching on the side of it. So we try to put little things in there that make your actual play of the game feel better, get more enjoyment out of the game rather than just easy to set it up and tear down. So those are the things we're really looking to do now when we create products.
The other kind of avenue I like that some of the products take, and I think probably a good example of this would be like Firefly. It's when you can take something that has way outgrown its box, and as somebody who throws away expansion boxes, yeah, I'm that guy. You know, you wind up going, okay, I have no idea where to put this stuff now. So having those single solutions for everything is got to be huge.
Right. We weren't really sure. Firefly was the very first one we ever did that was kind of a mega crate, you know, so to speak. But we weren't quite sure how that would do because obviously the price point goes up a little bit. But we found that, you know, fans of Firefly that owned everything were so committed to the game that it was worth it to them to have this nice crate solution that made it easy to carry to a friend's house or just looked great on your gaming shelf or gaming table. So that really did, you know, much better than we expected. So it's led to us doing more of those for games that have really outgrown, you know, their storage solutions. So now we have them for Arkham Horror and Eldritch Horror, and we just did one for, you know, Fireball Island, and we've got them for Pandemic and a bunch of games. So that area of our product line is continuing to grow. As long as they create games that, you know, don't have a good storage solution, we'll definitely look at something like that for them.
Oh, I know. It's definitely one that kind of sits in the back of my head that, like, I'm definitely going to be getting the Fireball Island one because, you know, it's gorgeous and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But, you know, I love that, you know, you can still personalize it. You can stain it. You can do whatever you want to it. I honestly enjoy building these things. Like, I know that there are some people who might kind of poo-poo that, you know, but you know, they're also the same people who aren't going to buy at IKEA either, right?
Right. No, I'm glad to hear that. But we actually find the majority, and I guess it's self-selecting, but we find the majority of our customers say they really do enjoy it. I mean, every now and then we'll get an email from someone that's like, I didn't enjoy having to put this thing together. It's not my thing, and we totally get it. I wasn't sure when we first started making these kits if it was something that people would be into, but you know, more times than not, people write back and they're like, oh, this like brought out my inner Lego kid when I was putting these together. And I realized how much fun it was just to snap stuff together and see something, you know, built from, you know, not a whole lot. And then other people take it even further and want to stain them or decorate them. So we love to see, you know, people post pictures of the creative stuff they've done to their kits. So that's super cool too.
Awesome. Well, you know, I think this has been a great commercial for this stuff I can nerd out because, you know, there are a lot of like quote unquote toys that the modern adult man wants. CNC
Right.
machine.
Yep.
A laser cutter fits that bill. I mean, I kind of have the poor man's. I bought a Cricut. That's that's
Those
my
are
poor
cool.
man's
I
cutter.
don't. My father-in-law has one of those, and I every time I see it, I'm like, I need to get one of those things. It's so handy. We've got vinyl signs on our doors at work that were made on one of those.
Yeah, it's
Those are handy.
It's a fun little toy, and it kind of lets me get some of that out. You can even cut like with the good one, the Maker, right? You can actually even cut balsa wood with it.
Oh wow, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I don't think that would make a very good insert. I'm gonna put that out there.
Yeah.
Balsa or bass, not so
Yeah.
much.
It's a little those woods are a little weak, and every now and then a customer will be like, I didn't like the broken token. It was made out of balsa wood. We're like, no, it's not. It's not balsa wood. Something totally different. This isn't a model airplane from the 80s.
No. I mean, the only thing is, and I think some people kind of forget, it does add to the weight of the box. So you do have to be ready for that. I mean, that is probably the one drawback to any, well, that's going to be any insert. I mean, even foam core adds some.
It adds a little bit of weight, but it also adds structure. So I think in a way it balances it out. When you have something a little more rigid in there, it actually kind of supports the box too. You could, pile 20 boxes on top of each other, and the bottom one isn't going to crush down with an insert in it. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. It might add, probably less than a pound, but the extra structure keeps the box from kind of collapsing, makes it easier to carry around too. So that's kind of nice.
Exactly. Makes perfect sense to me, and I should know. I love inserts for games. So you mentioned drones, so I do kind of want to run down that path, but let's take a quick break and get our weekly allotment of puns from Mr. Patrick Hillier after this.
With Patrick Hillier.
100 years ago, everyone owned a horse, and only the rich had cars. And today, everyone has a car, and only the rich have horses. Oh, how the stables have turned.
This week's shout out goes out to the Tuesday Night Podcast. Join Alan Girding as he talks to a wide variety of people in the industry and is absolutely entertaining to boot. Be sure to check them out at TuesdayNightGames.com. And welcome back. I am still here with Mr. Greg Spence of The Broken Token, makers of fine meeple walls everywhere, but get your own because this one's taken. But so in the first half of the interview, Greg, you kind of glazed over something kind of cool, and that was this. You like to do drone racing. Is that something you still actively do?
I haven't really had time to get into it in a while, so I wish I did have more time for it. But for a few years there, I was really into building drones, and we back then, there's so much more common now, and you can go into any store and you can see these DJI drones and other drones you can buy off the shelf. But back then in like say 2012, 2010, around then, most people in the hobby were building them themselves. So you could go out and you could buy a frame, but you'd have to research what size motors you wanted and what size props you wanted to get the right lift and what speed controllers and flight controller you wanted. And if you wanted to add features like GPS or anything like that, they were all separate systems you had to research and buy, and then you had to, build the system yourself. And it was a growing hobby that was seeing a lot of people were getting into it. And that's why it led, I think, to, so many other companies coming out with stuff that you could just buy right off the shelf, which for the value is amazing. What you can get now, if you go and buy a Mavic Pro from DJI or something, the features you get in that thing, you can't build your own for that. But back then it was a lot of fun to build them. It was a good learning experience. And we would always have cameras mounted on the front that would transmit back to goggles. And so, the fun thing would be to go to a park and, fly it through the swing sets and fly it through the trees and try not to hit anything. And it was a lot of fun. So yeah, I was really into that. I still have all that stuff in my garage. I just haven't had time to get back to it in a while.
Now, did you used to set up like courses and do like they do with the Red Bull Air Show and kind of try and do obstacle courses and things?
We weren't organized enough to set those up. We just made do with what we could find. So we had some, our favorite parks and things we'd go to when they weren't busy, and we would use the trees and the obstacles and the stuff that was already there. But we never actually, set any of that stuff up. But it's a lot of fun. And if you want to see if you want to see what it looks like, shameless plug, I guess you can go to my YouTube channel. I've actually uploaded a bunch of videos that were taken that I recorded when I was doing that. So if anybody's listening to this saying that sounds cool, I want to see what that looks like, just go online. And there's actually, if you just search YouTube for FPV drone racing, you can actually find people that are a lot better at it than me. So there's other really cool videos out there to watch.
But it sounds like fun. I mean, it kind of sounds like when I was growing up, the RC cars were kind of, they were kind of big before they started getting into the gas powered, the electric. Like you could buy your standard, like, the animal kits, like you had the Wasp.
I had a grasshopper.
Yeah, everybody did, right?
Right, exactly.
Now
those were cool.
I had a Fox, so I had the waterproof one, and then I decided to make spiked tires for it, so I bought like an extra set of tires and I stuck thumbtacks through it so I could take it out in the snow. Didn't work
those were a lot of fun.
As it sounds.
those kits were great. A neighbor of mine had what do you call it, like a Wild Willie or something? It was the Jeep. Oh. And that was the first time I'd ever seen one of those, and I was like, that's super cool. And then my parents got me, I think I had the Hornet actually. It had like the gas-filled shocks. It was similar to the Grasshopper. But yeah, that was fun. I got into RC stuff super early too, probably like you did. And that's one of the things that probably led to me getting into planes, and I did planes for a while, and then I got into drones, and yeah, it was a blast. I really enjoy it. I'm sure when my kids are old enough, I'll get back into that stuff with them.
It was really cool. Like I remember going to the hobby shop and the helicopters were like hanging from the ceiling and stuff. I mean, couldn't afford them, and let alone the Fotoba controllers were ridiculous.
Yeah. And I didn't really get into the helicopters because those things are really difficult to fly, and they're expensive too. So you gotta have deep pocketbooks if you want to keep crashing those things.
Pretty much. The drones kind of make that a little easier, thankfully. But
yeah,
and
sure.
I don't know about you, but I could never make the jump to the trigger style of controller, right?
Yeah, I'm like you on that. I always use the two thumbs, and the wheel seemed a little bit weird.
Yeah, like steering it, like I used to. No, it just didn't work for me. Like
I agree with you on that.
And but they're fun. I used to really love those, especially in the winter. But so being a programmer, you also obviously like to play around with electrics and lights and things. And one of the pictures on your background is apparently you like to do a lot of Christmas lights too.
Yeah,
I did catch that from one of your photos.
Yeah, that was another little thing I got into. I don't know, probably about 8 or 9 years ago. I saw somebody, post a YouTube video of their house lights that were synchronized to music, and I was like, "That is awesome! That's right up my alley. I got to figure out how to do that." and so I would buy the circuit boards and all the components I would need to build the controllers that would turn the lights on and off, and then I would sequence all the lights and make it work. And that's another one of those hobbies that's continued to grow. And this is one of the cool things just about like the time we live in. No matter what hobby is out there, it's got people in it that have, amazing skills at stuff that push the hobby forward. And so even something like the Christmas lights, there are software engineers and electrical engineers that are into it that have made super cool, controllers and circuit boards and stuff for that now. So the stuff that you can do is amazing. It's continuing to get, really fun. So it's definitely easy to get wrapped up in something like that. My wife will tell you I have way too many hobbies.
I think most of the people watching, I think most of the people participating would also agree with you in that regard. Right. My wife, she loves board gaming. I don't know that she gets this as much, 'cause
right.
Let's face it, this is a hobby, right? Like just kind of
for sure.
Putting this out there and having fun. She used to sit down here and like watch recordings, but she doesn't do that anymore.
Now she's like, Chris is down there doing his thing.
Yep. She just knows like not to flush toilets. Like she's really good about it. But, I don't have to worry about
I'll
those.
have to go back and watch
things.
those early episodes with toilets flushing in the middle of the show.
So she was always very conscious of that. So, it is what it is. But now when you I'm kind of trying to put your whole thing together here because you got computer programming, you enjoy the RC cars, you like the lights.
Yeah.
I kind of imagine that you're also very handy. So I imagine that your house has to be an ongoing project forever. Because if you're
Yeah,
anything
that's
like
true.
me,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
like
My
literally
wife and I,
bought a house and was ripping a wall apart the day after we settled. A brand new house, I might add.
I think I developed that from my mom and my dad. Growing up as a kid, they contracted several of their own homes. So they would buy the property, they would hire the subs, and they'd end up doing a lot of the work themselves. So they would they would lay their own tile and do the trim work and lighting fixtures and electrical fixtures, but they would hire out to the subs, the framing and all the stuff you need licenses to do. But I grew up around that. So every time we'd move, we'd have this 6 to 9 month project of building a house that I'd be, a kid playing on the plywood floor while my parents are, doing stuff in this house until we got it built. So I think I got that from my dad. And when I was in my early 20s, I was fortunate enough to be able to build my first house with my dad, and he helped me do it. So I really enjoy that. So now, even to this day, like you said, my wife and I, we like renovating and fixing things up. So there's always some kind of project going on.
The woodworking, the being able to do things around the house, to be able to run the electric, to be able to run the plumbing. It's funny. For me, it's second nature because I grew up a lot like you. I was 12 years old and my sister and brother-in-law built a house from scratch. Like we contracted the basement and the electric and the plumbing. That was it. Everything else we did. So, 13 years old running around on a second story roof, this is second nature. It's like, the being able to fix things, being able to work on things. And, it never ceases to amaze me when somebody comes up and goes, "How do you do that?" And I'm like, "A jigsaw?" And like, it's, to me, it's just so like, I grew up with this. Like, there was always a table saw in the garage.
I don't know if you're this way, but I've always had this just like crazy fascination with how things work. Like that TV show, How It Works. I love the show. I always want to know, how things are, it's how it's made. Sorry. I always wanted to know how things are made, what are manufacturing processes like. I'm just fascinated with how do you make something, out of nothing, out of raw components. So anytime I get the opportunity to learn how to do something like that, that's the kind of thing that really drives me and, gets me going.
No,
so,
absolutely.
That's cool.
My, what's funny is my best friend and I are kind of flip sides of the same coin. He's that way with cars and electronics. Like he's always been able to do that, understand it. He could tell the difference between an ohm, a volt, and an amp. And spelling is about the only thing I could offer you. But he's always had that side of it. But you can't even give him a paintbrush to paint his house. He's been in for 14 years. Like it's never happened. So But he's the same way. Mine stops at electronics. I wish like I could. Build an Arduino. But honestly, so here's the problem, right? So in our day and age, I can go find a YouTube video to teach me how to make X with an Arduino processor, right?
Right. Yeah.
But you're not really learning the hows and the whys. It's like you're not getting that base of knowledge. You're able to cobble something together that works and does what you need, but you don't have that fundamental knowledge. And I've never really grokked it, to use our board gaming term. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. That was the thing that I think drove me into getting to wanting to build drones, was because I all of a sudden became fascinated with the software side of how drones use accelerometers and gyroscopes to level themselves and account for things like wind and position. So I was like, okay, I know that someone's already written code on how to do that, but I want to start from scratch and write my own code to do that, because I'm fascinated with what problems need to be solved in order to overcome those issues. And so that's why I started, building drones initially, where it was like, okay, run them off of an Arduino or something like that and write your own flight controller software. But then, after I got into it deeper, it was like, okay, that's a lot of work. I want to buy this flight controller because it's got these cool features built into it. So it's cool to figure out how the stuff works. But then at some point, you don't want to sit there reinventing the wheel all day. You want to get to the fun stuff.
Right, exactly. And that's fair, but it gave you that base knowledge, right? Like, sometimes for me, the prime example I'll give is there was a photography workshop we used to do, and it was an Arduino controlled contraption that would drop a single drop of water into a plane. So you could like do the catch the water drop flying back up pictures. So the
cool.
it was the timing between the time the drop released and the time the flash fired, because you actually do this in a dark room. It's the flash that freezes the action. You leave your camera open the whole time. So Chris's Photography 101 will be happening another day, but it's just like you just blast it with the light, and then that's what captures the shot. And
that's cool.
So it's trying to get that timing down. And I tell you what, like I tried, like you would not believe, to kind of get it and to grok it. It just did not, like I just could not, just didn't work for me. So I just sat there and pushed
I'm that
the
way
button.
with, you were talking about your friend that works on cars, and that's where my knowledge stops. I wish I had the time and inclination to figure out how, stuff in cars works and could work on those, but that's just a whole nother knowledge base. I'm like, I cannot dive off that deep end. So I'll leave that to somebody else, but I wish that was something I could do.
Thank God. So thank God for two things. Thank God he has a lift in his garage and all the tools I need and a fair amount of knowledge. So I can just like call him up and say, what are you doing Sunday? I need to do a tune-up. You good? And so
that's awesome.
Go over, have some beer, and do a tune-up.
Right.
And save me $600. So.
Yeah, no kidding. That's pretty funny.
This has been awesome. So thanks a lot for being on. Now we're gonna go play a game next week, but the people will get to see that. We'll see what Dan has in store for us. But in the meantime, if somebody wanted to find you guys on the internet, or maybe look at some of these awesome things like the Firefly Crate, where would they do that?
So our website is thebrokentoken.com. You can go there. If you have any questions, our email address is there. You can reach out to us. We're always available to answer questions and help with any issues that come up, and we love to hear from people. So, and if you've got ideas for things you'd like to see that you think would be cool, then let us know, and maybe we can turn it into a product or something one day.
I have some ideas I want to talk to you about. So we're going to do that off the air.
Yeah, sounds good. I look forward to hearing them.
Outstanding. Well, thanks very much for being on, Greg. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. It's been our pleasure. Thank you at home for watching. Dan, thanks for pushing the buttons and pouring the beer. So we'll see you next time when you don't get a splinter when you game all night. Thanks for watching this week's episode. Join us next week when we play a game with the guest. If you enjoy our content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Be sure to follow us on all forms of social media. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook are the best ways possible. Simply find us by searching for Game All Night Show. And of course, check out our website at gameallnightshow.com. This Week and Each Week is made possible through the generous support of donors like these. Be sure to subscribe below and check out our latest videos. the deck would be on fire on the Titanic, and he would probably still be up there trying to finish his game. Man, sometimes you just can't judge distance.
Right.
Well, it doesn't matter now with backups.
Okay, as you wish.
Thank you. I love you too. Head, and it would
No,
not
Chris
leave.
was like, I can't say nipple. I can't say nipple.
And why? Why not?